If you like storytime vibes, hit subscribe and let's dive in together.
I found out my wife gave almost everything we had to her ex. That's not how you expect a Tuesday morning to start, but that's how mine did. I was standing in our kitchen, coffee still steaming, when I noticed our joint account was missing $1,000. At first, I thought it was some banking error, but then she, my wife of barely 10 months, told me she took it. Her excuse? She said she was buying me football memorabilia for my upcoming birthday. I remember laughing, relieved, saying, "Babe, you didn't have to do that." But then a thought hit me. "Why didn't you use your savings?" I asked. That's when her eyes filled with tears. She said she'd spent all her savings on fertility treatments. We'd been trying for a baby, so that explanation punched me right in the guilt. I hugged her. I told her it was okay. I even apologized for doubting her. That was my first mistake. A month later, she came to me again. This time she said her friend needed to borrow $2,000, and she'd pay me back next week. I didn't think twice. I wanted to believe my wife was the kind of person who helped others. Then, a week later, she called me at work. Her voice was shaky. "Honey," she said, "I took out another $2,800. I'll explain everything tonight." That was the moment my gut twisted. I knew something wasn't right. That night, she sat across from me, silent for what felt like an eternity, then finally confessed. "There was no fertility treatment, no friend. I've been sending money to my ex." I froze. She explained that he owed her around $150,000 from years ago, and that he needed money to pay his lawyer to release it. I stared at her. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "You realize he's scamming you, right?" She swore he wasn't. But when I demanded to see the messages, it was obvious. It was all lies, promises, manipulations. She finally broke down and admitted it. She said she'd stop, that she'd return the money. At that point, I calculated the damage, about $5,800 from our joint account, and maybe $10,000 to $15,000 from her own savings. Painful, but survivable. Except it didn't stop there. A month later, I noticed she hadn't deposited a cent back into our account. Bills were stacking up. So I checked her credit cards. One was maxed out, $15,000, another halfway there. I remember my hands shaking as I scrolled through her statements. Every transaction went to wire transfers, online payments, international accounts. She gave him everything, every dollar she could access. I confronted her again. She looked smaller somehow, her confidence gone. "I thought I was helping him," she whispered. "He said once he got the money, we'd both be rich. I just wanted to make our life easier." That's when it hit me. Not only had she lied, she'd risked our future for a fantasy. For weeks, I didn't sleep. I'd lie awake beside her, wondering who I'd married. A woman who could keep a straight face while lying to me, crying on command, hiding thousands of dollars in transfers. She promised to fix it, said she'd pay it back. But she never did. So I started digging. Quietly. I pulled her phone records, her emails, her messages. Turns out the ex wasn't just asking for help. He was flirting, promising her a fresh start together once the money came through. Yeah, he wasn't just scamming her, he was reeling her back in. That night, while she was in the shower, I printed everything. The bank transfers, the messages, the fake lawyer emails, all of it. When she came out, I was sitting at the kitchen table, the papers spread out like a crime scene. "Let me guess," I said. "You were planning to leave once he got the money, right?" Her face went white. She couldn't speak. That silence told me everything. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood up, looked her in the eye, and said, "I hope he was worth it, because this—" I gestured around the room, our home, our life. is gone. The next morning, I went to the bank and moved my name off every joint account. I froze the credit cards. I spoke to a lawyer. I made sure her little financial fantasy couldn't drag me down with her. A week later, she came begging, crying, saying she'd been brainwashed, that she didn't want to lose me. But I was already gone emotionally. Here's the twist. Remember that $150,000 she was supposed to get back? Turns out the ex didn't exist. The person she was sending money to was part of an international scam ring. She'd been catfished by a stranger pretending to be her ex. So, yeah, she destroyed our marriage chasing a man who wasn't even real. When I told her that, she broke, completely. But by then, I didn't feel pity, just emptiness. I didn't stay to rebuild what she burned. I couldn't. I sold the house 6 months later and started over. And here's what I learned. Love without trust is just debt you'll never get back. If someone hides money, secrets, or conversations from you, it's not love. It's manipulation dressed as affection. I gave her everything. My trust, my savings, my future. She traded it all for a lie. But the funny thing is, losing her didn't ruin me. It freed me. Because sometimes, the most expensive lesson in life is the one that saves you from repeating it.